Happy Tuesday Night Live, VertForce. It is your community founder and your host for the evening, Kimber Hill. And I'm bringing you two very special guests this evening. I'm going to introduce them very soon, but for right now, suffice to say, we've got some military spouse mentors on tonight who can't wait to talk to you. This evening, we have Cynthia and Rachel. They're going to be discussing career opportunities and how Intuit supports military spouses through remote work. Here are the three big things we're covering this evening that you absolutely do not want to miss. This season's hiring cycle for TurboTax is coming to an end, which is actually really going to benefit you. For the remainder of the hiring season, Intuit recruiters will consider 1 season of tax prep experience in lieu of 3 seasons. Listen, we don't know how long this is going to last. So I want you to jump on this offer. And that's why we're talking to Cindy and Rachel tonight. They're going to give us some really great advice. The second thing is for those of you who are wanting to make a career pivot into taxes, so you can apply with Intuit next season, our military spouse tax experts, Cindy and Rachel, are going to be answering some big questions. And that first big question is, how do I get 1 season of tax prep experience? Where do I start? Finally, we're also going to be talking with Karina and Blair, our hiring managers over at Intuit TurboTax and QuickBooks Live. Karina is going to advise us on how to land an offer with Intuit by having a really great interview. And Blair is going to walk us through a day in the life of a QuickBooks bookkeeper. So this evening, we're highlighting 3 career opportunities. They are in the chat above my head. The TurboTax Live Expert, the TurboTax Live Non-Credentialed Tax Associate, and the QuickBooks Live Bookkeeper. That second one is the one where the requirements have been reduced, so I want you to pay very careful attention to that one. The links are in the description above my head. There's also one other link there that allows you to share your identity with us before you leave a comment. So I would love for you to absolutely share your identity when you're commenting so we can just know who we're talking to. 1 second, and I'm going to check audio. You share your identity with us. Cool. Our audio is working great. I can hear myself on another device. So let's get going. We've got a fun icebreaker question this evening in the comments. Our icebreaker question for you to drop your answer is, when are you getting your taxes done? And am I the only one who is just like, oh, the sooner the better, so I do not have to think about it? Tell us in the comments when you're getting your taxes done. And of course, tell us where you're listening from. Tonight, we have got Navy veteran and TurboTax Live expert. Hang on just a second. Yeah, there we go. TurboTax Live expert who is streaming with us out of San Antonio, Texas, Rachel McNary. Hey, Rachel.
Hi.
We also have military spouse and TurboTax Live manager who is streaming with us out of Tucson, Arizona, Cindy Rodriguez. Hey, Cindy.
Hi, nice to meet everyone.
Thank you for joining us. We also have Karina and Blair who are sitting with us in the background, and I will bring them on a little bit later in the live stream. But Karina is our TurboTax recruiter and hiring manager, and Blair is our QuickBooks Live hiring manager. So thank you all for coming on the show. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. Let me get over here to our comments and see if we are getting any icebreaker answers. Yay, we are. Our users are saying we're doing our taxes ASAP. ASAP, and Ashley Denise Thorne says she's listening from Fort Bragg and she's doing those taxes ASAP. Ashley, good to see you. I was chatting with you on Messenger earlier today. I'm glad that you're here. I think you'll get a lot of value out of this live stream tonight. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. Rachel, let's start with you. Tell us about your military spouse journey, your military journey. I know you're a veteran. Would love to hear about how you ended up at Intuit.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I started out, went to the Naval Academy, got my commission as a supply corps officer, and met my husband there too. So had a great career, loved it, got to do a lot of exciting things that, you always look back and you're like, oh, I miss it. But we had kids and, that decision had to be made. The both of us in lots of moving around, and he was a pilot, and I decided I'd be the one. I'd come home, take care of the kids, and I had a huge break. So then I said, well, I'll use my GI Bill. I'll get another degree in accounting. And I ran into a wall where so many years out of the workforce, even with a degree, actually hurt me, an extra degree, because then I had those two things. I'm overeducated and I had no experience.
Mm.
So then I was kind of stuck. What do I do? Accounting degree for 6 years, I volunteered, figured, well, if nobody will hire me take lower jobs where I just felt like that much time away from the kids, it was just a tough decision to make. So I volunteered at VITA about 4 years, then decided to get to pass the enrolled agent exam. And I got an advertisement from Intuit asking me to apply. And I thought, well, I don't know. I don't know if I have the experience, but I tried and I got hired. And it's been great.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to say that so many military spouses are in that same predicament. And you kind of had a double whammy there, which not everybody experiences, but extensively out of the workforce, right? So there's a big career gap on your resume, which can be hard to navigate around. And it can also really affect your confidence when you're applying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's whammy number one. And then the second whammy for you, I think, is that you were overqualified with having the master's degree. So even if someone was looking at you and thinking, oh, I'd like to hire her, then they're nervous to hire you because they're afraid you're going to get a better offer somewhere else more quickly and you won't be with them for a while, right?
Yeah, and also I think when they saw the master's degree, they're thinking, "Oh, I have to pay her more too." So honestly, I mean, it was disheartening, and I think I tried for about 6 months, and I gave up because my confidence was through the floor. I just felt like, gosh, nobody wants me. It was
I'm so
terrible.
sorry you felt that way.
Yeah.
Other mil spouses who are watching, has anyone else been in either of these two situations? Give us a comment. Tell us what you're going through. We want to hear from you. But it sounds like that you finally found a great opportunity with Intuit. And you were telling me the other day when we first talked how getting involved in taxes and getting the enrolled agent license and working with Intuit has really improved your work-life career.
Yes. I mean, the first thing is, I loved math, was a science major, but when I started getting in front of people in the community and helping them with their taxes, I realized this is what I want to do. I love serving, and it's just transitioned into another way of serving. And then working at Intuit, taking the calls, helping people do their taxes, and they're stressed out, especially my military members, because they have multiple moves, a lot of moving parts in their return, and I'm able to help them. And it's incredible. Like I leave my office, I work from home, and I'm smiling when I leave. And it's great. My family loves this. It's just been a huge confidence booster. I really cannot tell you enough. Intuit is a fabulous company to work for, and I'm so grateful I got this job.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're saying that. It's so incredibly encouraging. For everyone who's listening, I want to take 2 steps back and just indicate what is the enrolled agent license. That is the highest credential that the IRS can bestow. It is, I think, I'm struggling for the word here, but it's a national credential. So it travels with you. It's a federal credential. So that means you don't have to get your EA license every time you move to another state. We had an incredible conversation with Intuit about the EA license about a month ago. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can drop a comment and we will tag you in that video. And then one other thing, which we're going to talk more about that you already mentioned, Rachel. What is VITA? Can you tell us what VITA is very quickly?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. The IRS is in charge of it. And then there's organizations like here in San Antonio, it's the Catholic Charities that runs it, administers it, and it's limited to, I want to say it's 67,000 and under. Each state is different though, so it's help providing tax preparation resources for lower income uh, taxpayers.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. We'll spend a lot more time talking about that. But first, I really want to hear from Cindy. Cindy Rodriguez is our additional guest here with us tonight, and she has a very interesting and incredible journey to ending up with Intuit as well. Cindy, would you like to bring us up to speed on how you ended up in your role with Intuit?
I'm very fortunate, I think, to be able to serve here at Intuit. And I have, although I didn't serve, and thank you so much for your service and your husband's work, Rachel. My husband is a Marine. And after the Marines, he became a CB reservist and also joined the civilian government force. So he is a federal agent, and we have moved several times as a federal agent into different communities. And sometimes he has to go TDY, where we've been able to go with him. If you have a position that you're required to go to in an office in your hometown, your spouse and your children are separated for a long time period. So this has really worked out well for me. My family has a long-term history of military. In fact, my daughter currently right now, she is in Fort Jackson in North Carolina, serving under the Army National Guard. I greatly appreciate everybody in this service. The sacrifice is unsurmountable by some people. But when we leave behind the spouses, either men or women, so both spouses are sometimes struggling, as Rachel said, looking for a position that is fulfilling, that provides them enough income that they feel justifiable for the position that they have, and something that they can continue if they have to move from area to area. That's what's been great for me here at TurboTax, that I was able to do that.
I love that you bring up how accommodating Intuit is for those who are transitory. And that is the lifestyle that we lead. I mean, honestly, right now we are in between houses and I am living in an RV with my spouse, but my career gets to go with me, which is why I'm such a huge proponent and advocate of remote work and why we want to bring these opportunities to military spouses. I was talking to the Intuit hiring team in our last live stream, and we know from the hires that are coming on board at Intuit that the accommodation and the space provided for you to do that PCS, to do that move, and to get settled and to just log back in and pick up right where you left off is incredibly important. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Cindy.
You're welcome.
So I have a few things that are coming through the comment stream that I just want to share on screen here. And I also would love to bring on Karina because we have a question that was submitted from, let's see here, from Kristen Romine and Christine Tejada. And I want to have all four of this crew on with us while we answer this question, because I think each of you is going to have some very valuable insight to this question. So VertForce listeners, everyone has been emailed and contacted about tonight's live stream, and we asked if you had any questions you wanted to submit in advance. This question was submitted in advance. And here it is. If we are interested in working with Intuit, but we don't have the required tax experience, how can candidates gain a year of tax return prep experience in order to be considered?
I can go.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely take advantage of volunteering with VITA, even just to get that experience, and might as well volunteer to do it for family or friends, whether it's utilizing, TurboTax. There's so many other different tax softwares that are the same. Some of them may have their own niche, but they still do the same thing. So as long as you get that experience, especially with the volunteer, that'll be very, very helpful for us for next season.
And Mary Chen says, thank you so much for mentioning VITA. I signed up to be a VITA volunteer this year, hoping to meet the hiring requirement for future employment with Intuit and TurboTax.
I can add to that. So VITA is now doing remote work. You can sign up for some offices and work remotely, so you don't even need to go in. They have 4 different levels at VITA. And as you take the different exams and you pass through that level, that just continues to improve your experience and your tax preparation experience, and will help you when you do choose to take the enrolled agent exams. There are some programs that somebody could choose to utilize, such as Passkey or Fast Forward Academy, and those work with you to take those enrolled agent exams. And there's 3 exams. There's a fee for the exam. You go into a proctored environment. They give you your results right there. And within about a month after that, if you pass, you have your enrolled agent card.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Cindy. So you were saying there are multiple levels that you can get involved with and multiple. Can you explain that a little bit further?
Yeah, so at VITA, you take an exam, and these different exams will put you in the different levels of tax preparation. So some, of course, are much more complex than others. There could be an intake, and then from there you can move up to, student loan, student interest, a little bit of Schedule A. Then you're going to move up into brokerage. You're going to move up into rental, self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to walk into VITA and everything's going to be thrown at you at once. You're going to be able to stair step your way into the type of return that fits your current knowledge.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. And Rachel, you said you volunteered with VITA for years.
I did. I started as a basic preparer.
Mm-hmm.
And then that next year, I took a chance and just took the class for the advanced preparer. And that's what I've been since then. And they give you the training. So why not take advantage? They train you and then they're helping you as you're taking the exam. So it's a really great opportunity.
Yeah, that's amazing. So for those of you who are dropping in the comments, especially Mary Chen, let's see, a few of you are coming through anonymous and you're talking about wanting to apply as a virtual preparer or being employed with Intuit TurboTax next season, and you need to acquire that experience. They're telling you right now how to do that, and that is to go sign up to be a volunteer. Cindy, didn't you say that this is the registration week, or maybe it was last week?
Right now, I just signed several people up for a VITA program. We just email you the link, you sign up, you get a user sign in and a registered program.
But Cindy was explaining to us that while Intuit cannot hire people who are located outside of the continental United States to perform taxes, if you are OCONUS, you can still volunteer virtually with VITA. Is that correct, Cindy, or am I misquoting?
It can be outside of the continental. We do hire people in Alaska and Canada, but we can't hire anybody at TurboTax to do taxes outside of the United States.
Right. However, if you are located outside of the United States, we are speculating that you should still be able to learn taxes and acquire that tax prep experience through VITA and through the IRS so that when you return, you can apply for these roles. All right, so we just tackled that big question of how do I acquire that 1 year of tax prep experience in our first video where we did have the freezing happening. What I want to do now is thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Cindy, for your time. I'd like to do a one-on-one conversation with Karina to talk about how you can land this non-credentialed tax associate role and to talk about the changes that have been made to it. So Karina, we got some really big news about 2 weeks ago, right? And that was that the requirements for the non-credentialed tax associate position had been modified.
Correct.
Could you tell us a little bit about that and what the change is?
Absolutely. So originally we were looking for 3 years of paid tax preparation experience or 3 seasons. And so now our requirements are we're looking for someone that has at least a year or 1 season of tax preparation experience. So that helps it out with folks that, yes, I know, it makes a huge difference.
It really does, because we had seen so many people coming through VertForce saying, well, I've done this once, or I did this 1 year with this company. Can I apply? And the answer had been no for so long, up until 2 weeks ago. And now the answer is yes, 1 season, 30 tax returns that would qualify you to interview for the role, right?
Correct. And even if somebody hasn't done a minimum of 30 returns, I still would encourage them to apply. That way we can get you in touch with the recruiter. The recruiter can share out more detailed information, and then really the rest is up to you if you want to continue to move forward, or if you don't. So we still encourage you to please apply.
All right. So for all of our listeners, what I want to shift into now is when you get on the phone with the recruiter, how do you need to talk about yourself? How do you need to talk about your experience? What are the things that you absolutely need to be bringing up so that you make it past that initial screening?
So I'll tell you, one of the main things that the recruiters will focus on is the tax returns. How many returns have you done, whether it's paid or non-paid? And even though we're asking about paid ones, even if it's volunteer, it's still helpful to talk about it and just bring it up before the recruiter even asks you, because they're going to ask you how many years of tax preparation experience you have. And like I said, even if it's 1 year, just don't say I don't have any, or obviously if you do, just talk about what you've done. Any information is going to be helpful, and include it on your resume as well. Even if it was for family and friends, doesn't matter if it was volunteer, put it on there. How many returns do you think you did, even if it was for 1 season? And also, what tax softwares did you use? Whether it was TurboTax or TaxSlayer or TaxAct, there's so many different ones. I know that sometimes people have taken courses with H&R Block but didn't work for H&R Block but used that software. That's okay. Any and all information is very helpful. Not just on your conversation with the recruiter, but also putting it on your resume, because what we want to make sure is that you have experience with the tax preparation. The rest we're going to provide training on, but we're not going to train someone on how to have tax preparation experience.
Okay, that's a lot of information, but what really it is. What I'm taking in though is any form of tax prep experience you have needs to show up on your resume.
Yes.
And when the recruiter starts to ask you about how many years of tax prep experience you have, don't hesitate to advocate for yourself verbally and explain all of the tax prep experience you have, even if it was volunteer, even if it was working with friends and family, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Karina. What other tips and tricks can you give us about the interview process and I want to specify we're honing in on this non-credentialed tax expert role. The link is above my head. It should be the first link. Let me double check here. Yep. It is the first link in the open roles at Intuit above my noggin here. So Karina, what other tips and advice can you give the candidates for, aiding the interview and having a stellar resume? What do they need to know?
So I'll tell you, with our interview process, after you talk to a recruiter, and the next step is a digital interview. So our digital interviews is kind of a cool little feature. We use this tool called HireView. So it's video questions where you are recording your responses. So it's not a live interview. And you'll see the questions pop up on the screen. And then the rest, we have multiple choice and written. I will tell you that for multiple choice and written, think of it as an open book questionnaire, because it's basic tax questions, nothing too deep or too fancy, where you'll have an opportunity to research the questions. We want you to research the questions. We don't expect people to know how to answer questions, right from the top of your head, because even when you're talking to our customers, we still encourage you to do that research. So that's why it's an open book questionnaire. But at the same token, there is a timer. So be mindful of the timer. What I would advise is, if you are sent the link to complete our video interview, make sure you're in a quiet space, and then also have different internet tabs opened up where you know that you could do various research, where it's, I think there's like even the IRS or just Google, any and all resources that you want to have. Make sure you have separate tabs up and available. So when it gets to the point of the timed assessment piece of it, you can be able to just jump on the different tabs. And so just know that it's very basic tax questions. And what we're going to be assessing, especially with the video, is how well you can articulate and communicate, because you will be on the phone video calls with our customers. So regardless of what the question is, how are you communicating? That's one thing that the managers are assessing. So the communication and the customer empathy as you're talking and answering these questions, and then the rest is your research capability with the multiple choice and with the written, because you'll have to provide written correspondence to our customers.
Wow. Okay. Getting a lot of information from you. It's a video interview. It is timed, but you can research the answers. You're looking at how people are expressing empathy through that process. And you're looking at how the candidates are performing their research to acquire the right answer or to select the right answer.
Correct.
Did I hit everything?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's incredibly helpful for our candidates who are looking at going through this interview process. Thank you so much, Karina, for sharing that and kind of
My
going
pleasure.
behind the scenes. We have a question for you that was submitted by Desiree Williams. She says, I have a bachelor's in accounting and volunteer with VITA before COVID. Would I be considered for this position?
Absolutely. I would still encourage you to apply for the tax associate role. Yes.
All right. Desiree, you heard her. Go apply. This position could be the one for you. All right. We do have another department at Intuit currently hiring for those of you who are attracted to more of the accounting and bookkeeping side of the house than taxes. So what I'll do now is I'll bring Blair Dribbin, the hiring manager for QuickBooks Live, on screen. And Karina, we'll bring you back in just a little bit. And thank you, Karina. And Blair, I would love to hear from you a little bit about what the QuickBooks Live position is all about. And this one does not have a time frame kind of boxing in when you can hire, right? It's open consistently. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And thanks again for having me back on here. Appreciate it, Kimber. Yeah, there's no seasonality aspect to the QuickBooks Live bookkeeper opportunities, which is a big difference between the TurboTax Live and the QuickBooks Live roles. People need their books done every month throughout the entire year, so we're hiring on a monthly basis right now for these positions. And they are a minimum requirement of 20 hours per week. You can work up to 29 hours per week. Those hours would be worked between QuickBooks Online regular business hours, which are Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific. So you would select a set schedule, and at a minimum, you'd work a 4-hour shift on the days that you do work. And we have a lot of different options for you depending on how many hours per week you want to work. And at a high level, you're really helping out our QuickBooks Online customers doing their books within the QBO software. So it could range from anything from doing initial setup, chart of accounts, monthly categorization, reconciliation, cleanup, close, really any general QuickBooks task from a bookkeeping perspective, or what our QuickBooks Live bookkeepers are assisting our QuickBooks Online customers with. Again, these roles are all remote, virtual as well, so give you that flexibility to work from home and move around if you need to. And yeah, we're excited that we're continuing to grow, and we got a lot of positive feedback about the folks who have recently joined. So it's a good time to get in the mix here.
That's really great to hear. So let's talk about the requirements for this bookkeeper position.
Sure.
What kind of experience are you looking for in candidates? What do they need to have when they're applying?
Yeah, that's a great question. So thanks for asking that. Ideally, we're looking for professional experience with the QuickBooks Online software, bookkeeping, accounting background, and a QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor certificate. And I'll circle back to that last one in a second here because I'll touch on the first two. In terms of bookkeeping, accounting experience, typically around the year mark with either of those is what we're looking for. There's definitely some wiggle room there depending on your qualifications for sure, but you have to know how to do books and just the basic fundamentals of bookkeeping and accounting for these positions. And then for the certification, you can still go through the interview process and the application process without having the certification. It's just a requirement that you need to have completed prior to joining if you were to receive an offer. And we can share information with you on that, on how to get that done throughout the process as well. The reason why we have that certification in place is it's a way for us to make a promise and meet our promise to our customers that they're going to be speaking with an expert. And by becoming QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor certified, we're deeming you as an expert, and in turn, you're able to offer the best service and solutions to our QuickBooks Online customers.
Absolutely. And I've been talking to a few of our community members who are pursuing that certification. And what I'm hearing is that you can acquire this certification. And I know QuickBooks says 8 to 12 hours. I've heard one person tell me it took them 14 hours just because they were working slowly through the process. Mm-hmm. But that means that's a Saturday, guys. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. That's one weekend. So that's an opportunity for you to go get certified and apply for this role.
Yeah.
Mary Jane says I was
going to say one quick thing on that too. The certification, it's free for you to do. And so it really it's up to you. Like, you can spread it out over a few days if you want to, or you can try and knock it all out at once. The one piece of advice I'll give you is there are training sections before each assessment for each module. I think there's 6 or 7 of them for the 2021 version. I highly recommend going through those training sessions before taking the assessment for each section. So that will, make it take a little bit longer, but hopefully set you up for success to pass each section.
Right. And Blair, I've heard that this particular certification, you can do the modules on your own, but that there are also live webinars that you can join. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are. There's a couple live webinars, and then some boot camp type of sessions you can take, and even just doing research on your own, YouTube, Google. Yeah. There's some helpful links on there on how to prep and how to pass and so forth from there. So I'd encourage them to take a peek into that.
So we're looking for about 1 year of bookkeeping experience, professional experience with QuickBooks, and that QuickBooks Pro Advisor certification. And Maria has a question for you. She said, I've done accounting for various companies for about 2 years. And all using QuickBooks, but I've not worked for the same company for a full year without any gaps. Should I still apply?
Yeah, thanks. Yes, I would absolutely encourage Maria to apply. We're more focused on your cumulative accounting and bookkeeping experience overall, and less focused on how long you've been with each employer. As long as you have the bookkeeping and accounting experience, that's going to be the key piece there. So absolutely, please apply.
Thank you so much, Blair. Blair, do you have interview tips and potentially application tips for this particular position?
Yeah, so for the application, right now we are prioritizing individuals who have the QBO certification, the Pro Advisor cert, like I mentioned. So if you can mention that you're working on it, or when you're applying, I think that would be helpful. If by chance you get a kickback email saying, thank you, but no thank you, by all means reach out to Kimber and she can put you directly in touch with me, and I'd be happy to connect with you. And then for, the interview itself, similar like Karina mentioned, we use an online platform called HireVue. So it's a online interview. It's about 45 minutes long. There's 27 questions total. 7 questions will be video questions, and your responses will be video responses. The next 3 are written questions, so you'll type in your response, and the final 17 are multiple choice. And so what you need to do to prepare for this is, 1, just make sure you're comfortable talking in front of the camera, and 2, similar to like Karina mentioned, have some windows up, because you'll be able to research questions. The questions are